Hello and welcome. Today, we're going to talk about something really fascinating from Korean philosophy, an idea that might totally reframe how you see the world around you. It's this concept that treats mountains not as just, giant piles of rock, but as living, breathing systems that have their very own family tree. So let's just dive right in with this central question. Can a mountain actually have ancestors? I know, it sounds a little strange, doesn't it? But stick with me, because by the end of this, you'll see how this one single idea unlocks a really profound way of understanding our connection to the land. All right, so here's our game plan. We're going to explore this in 5 parts. We'll start with the idea of a mountain's family tree. Then we'll look at the ancestral hierarchy, use a pretty cool modern analogy, a power grid, to make sense of it all. Then we'll trace the energy's path, and finally, we'll get to the ultimate goal, the search for harmony. Okay, so first up, a mountain's family tree. The core of this comes from a philosophy called Pungsu-jiri, and it sees mountains as having a genealogy, just like you or me, with a clear line running from ancestors all the way down to their descendants. And the specific term for this is Jojangsan, which literally translates to ancestral mountains. You can think of it as a system or a framework for seeing the hidden structure within a landscape. But even more importantly, it's about tracking the flow of the Earth's vital energy. So what this means is that instead of seeing a bunch of individual peaks, Pungsu-jiri sees one continuous chain. And this chain acts like a lifeline. It's a dynamic delivery system for a life force called Jigi, which you can think of as the Earth's chi or vital energy flowing right through the landscape. All right, let's move on to section 2. So if this is a family tree, who are the most important members? Let's break down this ancestral hierarchy. Okay, it's basically a 3-tiered system. It all starts with the Tajosan, the grand ancestor. This is the massive primal source of the entire range. For the Korean peninsula, you could think of a mountain like Baekdusan as the grand ancestor. From there, the energy flows through the Jeonjosan, or the middle ancestors. These are like the children and grandchildren who take that raw energy and refine it. And finally, it reaches the Sojosan, the minor ancestor. This is the immediate parent mountain that directly influences a specific, powerful spot. Now, I know this can all feel a little bit abstract. So to make it crystal clear, let's use a brilliant modern analogy for this ancient idea, an electrical power grid. This analogy really makes the whole system just click. The Taejosan, that massive grand ancestor, that's your power plant, generating immense energy. The Jeongjosan, the middle ancestors, they're like the substations. A main peak along the way acts like a transformer, refining the energy. And the mountain ridges themselves, well, they're the transmission lines, carrying that power all across the landscape. And here's the crucial point. What happens if you cut a power line? You get a blackout, right? It is the exact same principle here. Any break in that mountain chain, say a valley cut by a big river, it just stops the flow of Jeji cold. The connection absolutely has to be continuous. So that brings us right to our 4th section. Why is it so incredibly important to trace this lineage from the power plant all the way down the lines? Well, it all comes down to 2 guiding principles. First is directionality, and this is key. The energy doesn't just flow downhill like water. It follows the very specific, winding path of the mountain's family tree. The second principle is connectivity. As we just saw with the power grid, the lineage has to be an unbroken line, just like a single continuous thread of silk. No breaks, no interruptions. And this isn't some new idea. This quote from the Pungsu classic, Injasuji, shows you just how foundational this is. It says you can't understand the power of a place, which they often call the dragon, without first looking into its ancestors. By tracing the lineage back to the source, you can actually gauge the quality and the strength of the energy at any given spot. And I love this other ancient saying, because it perfectly captures this whole idea of an unbroken, logical path. Mountains do not cross water, and water does not climb mountains. It's just a simple, poetic way of saying that the flow of this energy follows its own natural laws along its own distinct, uninterrupted pathway. So this brings us to our final and really our most important section. What is the point of all this analysis? Why trace these ancestral lines? Well, it's all part of a grand search for harmony. The ultimate goal is to find what are called heal. These are very specific, auspicious spots where the Jiji, that vital earth energy, pools and concentrates after its long journey from the Taejosan. These are considered the places where life can truly flourish. So, in the end, the study of Jojongsan is really the study of roots. It's about understanding where the energy of a place comes from, how it got there, and how strong it is. It's a framework for finding a physical foundation for living in harmony with the natural world. And that leaves us with one last thought to take away. If land really does have a lineage, a family tree of energy flowing from peak to peak, what does the ancestry of the place where you live look like? What grand ancestor does your own home trace its roots back to?